Please welcome Mr. Ben Ferencz.
Right here. No, don't bother.
Okay.
Don't bother. Thank you very much. I'm about to grow in stature. Look at that. Isn't it wonderful? That's so that I may be seen as well as heard. Well, let me thank the sponsors, particularly the congressman who made it possible for the Library of Congress as well as the Holocaust Museum to put on this kind of a reception and audience to review a very important topic. And what I've been told to do is to tell you some stories about my own life, my involvement in the war, my involvement in the post-war activities, and draw some lessons from it. What did I learn from all of that? Where do we stand today? And what can we do for tomorrow? And I've got to review the 60 years. I've promised no more than 20 minutes. So you'll pardon me if I sort of skip along. Those of you who really want the details will have to look at my website, which is my name, benferenz.org. And I hope I'll be able to fulfill that heavy assignment. Let me begin with a quick review of my personal involvement. I was a student at the Harvard Law School when one of my professors was writing a book on war crimes. And in order to make a living, I did the research for the book because I was a very poor student. My grades were fine, but I had no money. I had to work for a living. And when the war broke out, I immediately joined the Army. They recognized my talent as a great expert on war crimes, and I became a private in the artillery, being trained for the invasion of France. In due course, I landed on the beaches. For most people, the water came up to their ankles. For me, it came up to my belly button. Somebody had tipped off the Germans, and they began to run in the opposite direction. The fact that I had a fellow along by the name of, I think it was Patton, George Patton, General Patton, with about 10,000 tanks may have helped a bit. And let me jump ahead. We reached a certain point where the President of the United States and the heads of state of the other countries involved in the war had promised that there would be war crimes trials for those held accountable for what the atrocities that were taking place. And of course the U.S. Army had no idea what to do with war crimes. They had no war crimes experience. So somebody fished me out of the artillery and sent me to Patton's headquarters, where I met a colonel, and he said, "Your name has been forwarded, and I've been instructed to set up a war crimes division. What's a war crime?" And that's how it began in the U.S. Army. Now let me just jump a bit ahead. The first cases that I had to deal with were cases where Allied flyers had been shot down and invariably murdered by the people on the ground. We'd get a report, Allied flyers killed in this town. I'd jump into a Jeep, ride out to the town, get the Burgermeister, whoever was still around, line up 20 or 30 people against the wall who'd been in the area, sit down and write out exactly what happened. Anybody who lies will be shot. That was standard routine. I was familiar with the Hague Rules, but it was also the standard German practice. All their sworn statements began with the declaration under penalty of death. I swear that the following is true. So we thought nothing of that, absolutely nothing of that. Then we soon ran into these reports which were mentioned of people wandering around in pajama-like things, looked like they were skeletons. They all seemed to be dying. And I would go out and we discovered what later became known as concentration camps. We never heard the name concentration camps. It was Ohrdruf, Buchenwald, Mauthausen, Ebensee. I came into all of these camps, and my job at that time, I had already reached the exalted rank of a sergeant of infantry, was to collect the evidence of the crimes so that we could present a prosecution. That meant getting in, going to the office, the Schreibstube, where the records were kept, capturing the death registers, the lists of personnel, whoever was in the camp, getting the Sealing Corps in to take photographs, where possible, get statements from the witnesses, what other evidence was readily available to prove what had happened. I'm not going to go into a detailed description here of the atrocities and of the conditions in the camp. Most of you have seen it. My archives are with the Holocaust Museum here in Washington, for those of you who want to see it, including photographs and diaries and things of that kind. They were absolutely horrible. You cannot depict on a screen or in a radio announcement the feeling of coming into a large camp, total chaos. Everybody is running in different directions. The SS is running out into the woods trying to escape. The inmates are either lying in their bunks dying or already dead on the floor, dysentery, diarrhea, every typhus, every disease you can imagine, lice all over the place, medics coming in trying to do triage, trying to save some of the people, the stench of burning bodies, of decaying bodies, dying bodies, all of that is true, it's part of it. And of course it's bound to have an impact on everyone who participated. You will be hearing more from other veterans of the war, and I have not come to talk about the battles of the war, but simply to share with you some of my experiences and my personal reaction to what had happened. When the war ended, I was very eager to go home, and I got home as fast as I could, and I never wanted to go back to Germany again. The Army gave me an honorable discharge, 5 battle stars for not having been killed in any of the battles. And very quickly, I received a telegram from the Pentagon: "Dear sir," they had never called me sir before, "please come to the Pentagon at my expense." And they said, "We want you back. We want to send you back into the..." I said, "In the Army?" They said, "Yes." I said, "You got to declare war first." So they said, "We'll give you a civilian rank of a full colonel to do what I had been doing as a sergeant." And I thought, well, can I then tell the lieutenant colonels what to do? And he said, "Sure, I'll take it." So I called my good wife, who was sitting here in the second row. Hold your hand up there, right behind Art Buchwald. And I said, "How would you like to go to Europe for a brief honeymoon?" "Oh," she said, "great." I said, "Now was my chance to get paid off for all those years." Well, it didn't quite work out that way. I had been involved in the earliest war crimes trials, about which I'm sure very few people know anything. And these are the Army commissions. I hammered up the first sign, U.S. Army War Crimes Trials, Dachau, in the Dachau concentration camp, where we tried the people who had murdered the Allied flyers who came down, and the camp commanders in the camps which we had liberated. The trials were about over 1,000 people were tried that way by military commissions, consisting of 3 officers, also a defense counsel, an Army officer of lesser rank for defense and prosecution. They were all convicted. Most of them were sentenced to death.